Hey everybody, I hope you all are doing well and welcome back to Michael's Matters. Now, of course, as per usual, I'm Michael, and over these last couple of weeks, we've been talking about how the ongoing debt ceiling fight that is going on between House Republicans, led by Kevin McCarthy, and Democrats, led by President Joe Biden, are really not going anywhere at the moment. There's been lots of talk about potential cuts in things like social benefits. So, things like SNAP, food stamps, Social Security, Medicaid, housing, Medicare, and a whole bunch of other things. And in the case of an actual shutdown itself, it becomes apparent that it would affect seniors and retirees and older Americans who are on the various Social Security programs. So, programs like Social Security Retirement, Social Security Survivors, Social Security Disability SSDI, as well as Supplemental Security Income SSI, and VA and Railroad Retirement Benefits. But there's a whole other side of the debate that we are not seeing a lot of people talk about at the moment, which is one part of the GOP's proposal that could cause millions of older Americans who are currently getting food benefits through the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, or SNAP, or what they used to call back in the day food stamps. These folks could lose their benefits if this proposal passes. In the most recent proposal from the GOP, there are cuts to food stamps that could leave seniors up to the ages of 55, and even one from South Dakota that could leave them up to 65 years old without the current food stamp benefits that they are already getting. So today, we are talking about how the proposed cuts in the Republicans' debt ceiling proposal could, if it passes, cause millions of older Americans to lose their SNAP and food stamp benefits. Now, before we get to it, if you like these videos, if you find them interesting, if you find them helpful, or hey, even if you find them useful, please don't forget to like and subscribe. And that way you can get updates when our newest and most informative videos become available. All right, now, let's get down to the video. So at the moment, just in case you were not sure, the country is currently careening towards a fiscal cliff, a point where the money in the government's bank account will start to outstrip the bills that are in its monthly inbox. In fact, this point ended earlier this year, but the Treasury Secretary, Janet Yellen, has been employing what she calls extraordinary measures. What these mean are, one, she is redeeming existing and suspending new investments of Civil Service Retirement and Disability Funds and the Postal Service Retiree Health Benefits Fund. Two, suspending investments of the Government Securities Investment Fund. Three, suspending reinvestment of the Exchange Stabilization Fund. And four, suspending sales of state and local government series Treasury securities. Whew. Now, these measures are what have allowed the country to continue to run up to thus far, but as of early June is the estimation, that's when the money is going to start to run out. So give it about 2 weeks. What this ultimately means is this is basically the government equivalent of paying the car note 1 week, and then the rent the next week, and then the electrical bills the next week, and so you can actually get them all paid, but just none of them on time. You have to stagger them. The reason this is happening is because the Republicans in the House and the Democrats, including President Biden, cannot seem to come up with any sort of agreement on a vote to raise the current debt limit ceiling that would allow the country to borrow more money to pay our existing bills. One of the big stumbling blocks of the negotiation at the moment is a proposed bill from Republican Speaker of the House, Kevin McCarthy, called the, quote, Limit, Save, Grow Act of 2023, end quote, which is a bit too on the nose for my taste. Early on, it was established already that cuts for programs like Social Security would be off the table. Whew, right? But it doesn't mean that there are not other proposed provisions that would affect our older friends and our older neighbors and our older family members almost just as much. Specifically today, we are talking about the portion of the Limit, Save, Grow Act that doesn't get much attention, but if it would pass, would hurt millions of seniors who are getting food benefits through the SNAP and food stamps program. This little-known provision in the proposal doesn't get as much attention as the Social Security or Medicaid or overall government shutdown, but what it would do, it would change the way in which older Americans and which older Americans are eligible for food stamps moving forward if it is to get passed. The long and the short of the provision is that it would raise the age limit for folks on food stamps so that many people who are on some Social Security benefits would also be left without SNAP benefit. Now, in order to be eligible for SNAP benefits, and again, this may vary from state to state, but folks would need to have an income that is below the income eligibility level. At the moment, the income level is set at a maximum of 200% of the federal poverty level, or the FPL. The FPL is a measurement put out by the government every single year and then adjusted for inflation that indicates that if a household is impoverished or if it is not, and at least according to the government. Here's an example of what that looks like for this year. And at 100%, you can see that if you are below that number at 100%, well, then you are poor. But if you are not, if you are above it, then I guess you're not poor. Also, you can see at the end of the chart, 200% right here. And that, of course, is adjusted by household, so it's going to go up for larger households. But you can see for a single person at 200% of the federal poverty level, they would be allowed to make as much as $29,160 per year. Monthly, that breaks down to $2,430 a month. In addition to the income eligibility requirements for Americans who don't have any dependents, who are able-bodied, and are adults between the ages of 18 and 49 years old right now, or as they are referred to as ABDWDs, they are only eligible for up to 3 months of food stamp benefits unless they meet a minimum requirement to work. That minimum requirement to work is 20 hours per week or 80 hours per month. What would change under the proposed provisions under Congressman McCarthy's bill is that it would bump up the age for which these work requirements would be required. So instead of being at 49 years old, it would get bumped up to 55 years old and 364 days. So basically 56 years old. So now folks up to 56 would be subject to the work requirement. Now, even though it doesn't seem like a big deal, only an additional 5 years, right? But in a country of 350 million people with 41,206,900 participants in the program, which breaks down to 12% or 1 in 8 Americans getting SNAP, and also 36% of those families on SNAP are households that have older adults in them, needless to say, a change of 5 years is going to have a big impact if it is to pass. And it would leave some of our most vulnerable older Americans even worse off without food benefits. In fact, preliminary numbers show that just for updating the work requirements for people from the ages of 50 years old up to 55 years old, it would in the first year affect nearly 1 million older Americans. Now, if we were to take examples from states and break that down, that means 136,000 Californians, 58,000 Floridians, and 53,000 Texans would be affected. One good thing is that right now, many older Americans, especially those who are taking care of children, have been exempt from the work requirements. For example, if someone is within these ages but are currently taking care of children who are under the ages of 18 years old, they are exempt from the 20-hour work requirement to get SNAP. Because let's face it, those 20 hours that they could be working, well, it's going to end up costing them more for the child care than they would likely be getting paid. But under an additional harsher proposal by Republican Congressman South Dakota Representative Dusty Johnson in a bill called the America Works Act, this age for children would be further lowered down to children who are 7 years or younger, down from 18. And to make matters worse, it would raise the work requirement age for older Americans by an additional 10 years, up to the age of 65 years old to still be required to meet the work requirement. So my guess, Congressman Johnson saw McCarthy's proposal and said, hey, you know what? I'm going to double down on this. So needless to say, these ideas, well, they're bad ideas. They sound great on paper, and they may sound great if you're talking to a bunch of people who agree with you. But if you truly believe that folks are just hanging out on food stamps and not working because of it, I mean, I just don't think that's the case. There are a litany of reasons out there that are showing what are holding people back from working, and the additional money and the additional time and the additional resources that would be necessary from these bureaucracies to enforce these types of changes, well, I think it would be better suited addressing the reason why people aren't actually working. The other heartening thing about this whole thing is that President Biden has already drawn a line in the sand and said that he is not going to negotiate and will not accept anything short of a clean budget bill. Now, you, me, the Republicans, and basically all parties involved know that it is not true. I mean, spoiler alert, right? When push comes to shove, he is going to have to negotiate at least a little bit. But in the meantime, we are stuck playing this silly game that amounts to what is kabuki theater. It is really, unfortunately, putting undue stress and real-life dread on older Americans and retirees and seniors who could, if this doesn't get worked out and the debt ceiling gets blocked, or if it does work out and these proposals get passed, could suffer the most as a result of these foolish policies. All right, so that's it for today's Michael's Matter, and I really hope that you enjoyed this video. And if you did, if you find it interesting, if you find it helpful, or hey, if you at least find it useful, please don't forget to like and subscribe. That way you can get updates when our newest and most informative videos become available. So for Michael's Matters, I'm Michael, hoping that you take care of yourself, take care of others, and have a happy healthy.